Hello YouTube and welcome back to another video. Today we are doing another tier list video. We've already done tier 1 equipment and therefore it's now time to do tier 2 equipment tier list. So we're going to be running through every single item in the game that is classified as tier 2 and ranking them on how good they are. So S tier will be items that are the best out of the tier 2 and probably items that I actually use in my main loadout over tier 3 item versions. And D tier will of course be the worst of the worst, right down in the gutter in D tier. So yes, without further ado, let's get into this. Okay, so we're going to start off actually with the tier 2 thermometer, and I'm going to be whacking this straight in A tier. Now, I'm not putting in S tier because it isn't an item I'd use in my main loadout. However, moving from the tier 1 thermometer to the tier 2 thermometer is arguably the best item transition. The tier 2 thermometer, it updates with a number, and it's super obvious which room the ghost is in using this. And I'm not gonna lie, it just updates decently fast. I mean, obviously it doesn't update quite as fast as the tier 3 thermometer, and from my experience, I don't really know if it's true, but it feels like sometimes with the tier 2 thermometer it can be slightly not inaccurate, but have like a larger range of which the temperature's in. I can't actually confirm whether that's true or false, but that's what it feels like. But again, going from the tier 1 thermometer, which is just standing in a room waiting for the red line to go up and down, to a number on your screen, and obviously with the tier 2 thermometer and the tier 3 thermometer, if the temperature is below 1, that's going to become freezing eventually, so you can count it as freezing temps. So if it's 0.9 or below on the thermometer, you can be like, right, freezing temps, and it's a lot faster to work out what the temperature is. Like, honestly, about 7 times faster than the tier 1. So that's going straight in A tier. Next item we're going to be talking about are tier 2 dots. Now, I do take the tier 2 dots over the tier 1 dots, but I wouldn't take the tier 2 dots over the tier 3 dots. So it's kind of like solidly just a solid tier 2 item. So I'm going to put that in B tier. It is definitely a good upgrade from the tier 1. The tier 1 can just be really annoying to set up. But as the tier 2, you just whack it on the floor. In my opinion, that's the best place to put it, by the way. Put the tier 2 dots just slap bang on the floor in the middle of the room. The range is all right in it. It's not crazy big. And yeah, I think it's just a solid tier. I think it's just a solid average tier 2 item. I wouldn't put it any higher or lower, I don't think. Now, of course, I might switch some of these around later on in the video, so we'll see at the end. We'll do a final analysis and see if anything needs moving. And I want to premise this video by saying this is all down to my opinion. So this isn't just what is the best and what is the worst. This is down to opinion. However, I do have quite a lot of hours in the game now, so I've kind of had a feel for all of these. I've prestiged a few times and used all these multiple times. Okay, next item. We have the tier 2 video camera, and again, this is going to be, for me, a slap bang in the middle. The tier 2 video camera is definitely better than the tier 1. You can see a lot more on it. It's actually, I sometimes find the tier 2 video camera is slightly clearer to use than the tier 3 video camera sometimes. The tier 3 video camera is quite big and bulky, and it can get in the way a little bit. So I can see why people would like the tier 2 video camera a lot, because you can see in the dark. I almost find sometimes easier than the tier 3. The contrast is quite good. But at the end of the day, if you're doing like a Goryo test, it's all right. I don't know. I don't really feel like I can put it in A tier. I don't really feel like I could put it in C tier. I think it's just another average tier 2 item. I would say it's definitely maybe higher up than tier 2 dots. Next we have the tier 2 salts. Now guys, this is going straight in S tier. I absolutely love the tier 2 salt. Going from the tier 1 to the tier 2 is just chef's kiss. You go from 2 salts to 3 salts, and you get a whole line, a wider area where the salt covers, and it's just the best in my opinion. So the reason I like the tier 2 salt and why I'm putting it in S tier over the tier 3 salt as well, I take this over the tier 3 salt, is because firstly it covers the same area as the tier 3 salt, and you get the same amount of salt as the tier 3 salt, but also it doesn't change the ghost speed. Now, when you're playing on Nightmare, Insanity mode, and no evidence, this is actually really important because you want to be able to to have a full proper idea of how the ghost speed changes. So let's say you're in Tanglewood. Let's say you're in the island room, right? The kitchen, right? And then you hear the ghost coming over, but you place salt on the way, and it sounds like the ghost slows down as it hits the tier 3 salt. I'm like, oh no, did it slow down because it is a Raju and it walked away from electronics, or did it slow down because it was a Hantu and it was cold in a cold room, then it went to a warm room? That's why I don't like using the tier 3. So yeah, tier 2 salt, in my opinion, is the best salt in the game. I absolutely love using it, and it's a great upgrade from the tier 1. Next, we have the tier 2 candle. Now, I'm going to be honest, I actually have recently started using this more often, and actually sometimes, and I'm going to be trialing this more, taking it over the tier 3 candle, but I'm going to put it in A tier, not S tier, because I'm not 100% certain with this. Tier 2 candle is a huge upgrade from the tier 1. They last far longer, like far longer than the tier 1 candles. They seem to go out really fast, the tier 1s. Yeah, the tier 2 candles are a decent upgrade, and the reason I'm putting them in A tier is because, and again, this is just from my experience playing the game and the many hours I've played, they seem to get blown out faster than the tier 3 candles for me when I'm doing an Oreo test, which is the main reason I use candles, is for Oreo tests. So for that reason, I have to put it in A tier. However, I am going to be trialing on my streams using the tier 3 again, and because I don't know whether it's placebo, but it just feels like the tier 2s get blown out far easier by the ghost than the tier 3s. So when I have used the tier 3s, 2 get blown out, and then the third one seems to last forever. Doesn't get blown out for a long time. However, the tier 2 seems to more frequently get all blown out at the same time. I don't know. I might be wrong. That's just how it feels. Next, we have the tier 2 motion sensor. Now, I'm actually going to put this as well in A tier. I think the tier 2 motion sensor is really good, and I have considered taking it over the tier 3 motion sensor many a time. Sometimes have taken it over the tier 3, however, not enough to put it in S tier. The tier 2 motion sensor is good because you've got a longer range than the tier 1, so it covers more area. Also, you can do 2 modes, where you can do just 1 line, or you can do the 2 split lines. If you click the motion sensor after you placed it, you can toggle modes. So you have 1 mode, which is just 1 laser. You have a second mode, which is 2 lasers that come out at an angle, and then the off mode as well. So yeah, for that reason, it's really good because you can actually cover a door area. So if you're doing like a Yuri test, one of the most useless tests in the game, but if you're doing a Yuri test where you smudge the ghost and it can't leave the room for 1 minute 30 seconds, apart from a ghost event, then this motion sensor is really good because you can definitely gauge whether it has left the room or not. So yeah, for that reason, it's pretty good. You can also do that with a mare test, by the way. If you turn the light on in the room that the ghost is in, you can see instantly if the ghost leaves. So yeah, it's pretty good for that reason. However, it doesn't have like directional motion sensing like the tier 3, and you can cover door areas with the tier 3 as well. So I don't know if I can put that in S tier, but it's still a really good item. Next, we have the tier 2 matches, whatever you call it. I can't lie, this is just going in C tier. Like, when I upgrade to this, I don't feel anything. I don't feel happy. I don't feel sad. I don't feel fulfilled. Nothing hits me. I'm just like, cool, I've unlocked it. Now, this is meant to last longer than the tier 1s. Like, you can't light as many, like, you have a certain amount of matches you can light with the tier 1. With the tier 2, you have a certain amount of liquid in the vial. But I can't lie, I've never run out of tier 1 matches. So yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it's just gonna go into C tier. I can't put it, it's not really any different from tier 1 and tier 3. Like, the matches difference is like so minor. So it's gonna be a C tier. Next, we're gonna go with the tier 2 torch. Now, I'm actually also gonna be putting this in C tier. I don't really ever use this, ever. When I'm playing the game modes I play, which tend to be Nightmare, Insanity, No Evidence, I don't really use a torch that often. I try to avoid it because it feels like a waste of inventory slot. When I have upgraded all my items, I use the tier 2. Well, actually, I'll get onto that soon. But I don't use the tier 2 torch. So I think we just have to whack that in C tier. It's not really that much of an upgrade. Okay, it's a little bit more luminosity. It's not really that good. It's when you upgrade to the tier 2 torch. I guess for new players, you might be like, oh yeah, I can see more. But I don't know. It's not really that amazing. C tier. The tier 2 Crucifix is the next item on the list. Now, I can't lie, guys. This is an S tier item. Obviously, the tier 2 Crucifix can stop 2 hunts, whereas the tier 1 can only stop 1 hunt. So that's already a benefit. Secondly, for me, who plays the high game modes, I need to do Oreo tests all the time. And the tier 2 candle actually has a very similar, if not the same range as the candles. Therefore, it's just the best, because it means that you're unlikely to fail Oreo tests as often as using a tier 3 candle. If you I keep saying candle, Crucifix, sorry. If you use a tier 3 Crucifix with an Oreo test, the Crucifix could be covering the range outside of the candle range. So if the Crucifix goes off, but the firelights haven't been blown out, then you might be like, oh, hang on, but what if that's because the Oreo spawned outside of the range of the candles, but within the range of the Crucifix? So I like to use the tier 2 Crucifix over the tier 3 for that reason, and that's why I got to put an S tier. I use it with my main loadout when I've unlocked all items, so S tier for tier 2 Crucifix. Next, we have the tier 2 Spirit Box. Gonna be honest, it's going to B tier. Very standard item. I guess it's got a bigger range than the tier 1, so that's a good thing. I don't really fall into any problems with this. The different levels of Spirit Box aren't really that significant. It's good. That's all I can really say. It's all right. I wouldn't use it in my main loadout. I'd use the tier 3 over the tier 2. However, it's a standard tier 2 item. It's going in B tier. The next item we are going to be talking about is the tier 2 photo camera. Now, as much as I'd love to just whack this in A tier, it's all right. You know, you can take pictures slightly faster than the tier 1, and you can switch items slightly faster than the tier 1, and that's basically it. It's still a photo camera at the end of the day. When you click, it takes a photo. It's just going to be a standard B tier. There's not really much else to speak about this. It's cool that it's a digital camera. The tier 3 is way better, going in B tier. Next, we have the tier 2 EMF Reader. Now, the thing is, I want to put this in B tier, but I'm slightly comparing it to its tier 3 counterpart, and the tier 3 version of the EMF is miles above this. So, for that reason, I'm going to put it in C tier. Like, it's not really that much different. I mean, the range is a lot better, I guess, than the tier 1 EMF, but it's not really that much better. You've got maybe like 1.5 meter, 2 meter range on that thing. I don't really know exactly the numbers, but you've got a better range on it. But the tier 3 EMF is just so much better than this that I don't think I can put it as like a standard B tier. Now, compared to the other tier 2 items, it is probably about here as well. Like, it's all right. It's not amazing. It's not awful. I'm almost tempted to put, now that I'm really looking at this, I'm also tempted to move things around, so we might move stuff around later. But yeah, right now it's going in C tier. It's not even like standard. It's just a bit like meh. It's all right, you know. It does its job, but it's not like cool or anything. The lights are kind of funky, I guess. I don't know. It's a C tier. Next, we have our next S tier item, the tier 2 headgear. This I use on all my top level gameplay videos, games and videos and streams. This thing is brilliant. You can turn it on. It doesn't take up an inventory space. You can see it's basically a tier 1 torch attached to your head. So you turn it on, you can use it. I actually use it over the tier 3 headgear because this thing doesn't disrupt your vision when you're getting hunted or anything, or when there's a ghost event. It just flashes a bit, which doesn't really matter. So yeah, tier 2 headgear is just so good. I get really excited unlocking this. It basically means that now I can see in my games. Like, honestly, potentially the best tier 2 item in my opinion. So yeah, that's staying straight in S tier for sure. What a fantastic item. Next, we've got the tier 2 sound sensor. Now, guys, I don't know if you've ever seen one of my games, but I will always use the tier 2 sound sensor. I'm joking, it's D tier. It's D tier. I get like the tier 1. Guys, it doesn't matter what tier of sound sensor you've got. It's a D tier item. Like, if you're playing, unless you're playing with friends, the sound sensors, I mean, I couldn't even tell you the difference between a tier 1 and a tier 2 sound sensor. I couldn't. I don't think I've ever even used the tier 2 sound sensor like the tier 1. It's you just put it down. And if you're playing solo, it's completely pointless. If you're using it in teams, it's not pointless because you can place it down in the map and then you can hear the ghost speed when your friend's getting chased and you're being a little van princess. So yeah, D tier. Never use it myself. I'm sorry, SoundSense. I kind of feel bad, but you're a D tier item, my friend. Next, we have the tier 2 Parabolic Microphone. Now, I'm not gonna lie. It feels like there's barely any difference between this and the tier 1. It's just the only difference is the range is a little bit larger. I'm putting it in C tier. The tier 3 is miles above this. So, and this is not even that much better than the tier 1. So it's going to have to be a C tier item. The tier 2 Parabolic Microphone, you can't even sense different floors. If you could sense different floors, then I'd put it definitely higher up. But you have to be standing on the floor of the ghost for it to work. And the range, okay, is I believe the same as the tier 3, which I guess is quite good, but the fact you can't see different floors, you can't see where the ghost is in the range like the tier 3, it's got to be a C tier. Next we have tier 2 Sanity Meds. I'm not gonna lie, standard. They give you a bit more sanity, and that's about it. Like, I don't know, I don't really know what else to say. They just give you a bit more sanity. That's the only benefit. A bit more sanity than the tier 1. That's it. Just a standard B tier, if not C tier. I'm not really sure where to put this, to be honest. It's a kind of a mix-up between. I think I'm gonna put it on C tier actually. I don't know if I can put it above a tier 2 Parabolic Microphone and EMF, so I think we'll keep it there. I'm definitely gonna have a rejig of all this at the end just to fully confirm this. Next we have the tier 2 tripod. Now the tier 2 tripods is good because you can rotate the camera. It can keep falling over, but I can't lie, being able to rotate the camera is actually really useful in many situations. So I think I might actually put this in A tier. The only downside to this compared to the tier 3 like is that it can get knocked over, whereas the tier 3 can't. So yeah, the fact that you can rotate the camera is actually really good. I don't know, actually. I'm going to move it down to B tier. I don't know if I can put it on the same level as these. Yeah, we'll put it in B tier. I think it's another solid B tier item. I wouldn't use it in my highest level gameplay modes, but I would use it. So yeah, it's a B tier. It's good. It's a good upgrade from the tier 1, but it's not as good as the tier 3. Okay, we're nearly all the way through this list. Book. Tier 2 book, I'm going to be putting in a solid B tier, like some of these other items. It's got a better range than the tier 1, and that's it. I guess it's got a slightly higher likelihood of being written in as well. I can't lie, never had a problem with it. Don't feel that excited when I get a tier 2 book. It's like, cool. Yeah, I think I'm just have to put it on B tier. Again, I've never really had a problem with any books getting written in, so I think it's just going to have to be a solid B tier. Next, we have the UV torch. Now, a lot of people think this is the best one in the game. I don't agree with you. I'm sorry. I think the tier 3 is better. I would say it is a decent upgrade from the tier 1, but it's not enough to put it in A tier. I'm gonna put the tier 2 UV in B tier, which a lot of people might find this might be probably the most controversial take of the video. I know that when you hold it, like, it covers like the whole area around you if anything's been touched. Like a handprint or a fingerprint, etc. But for me personally, I don't actually think it's that good. Like, once you know where the spots are, where it can touch the door or the window, etc., then it doesn't really make a difference. And yes, it does make the UV last a tiny bit longer than the tier 1, but the tier 3, I can scan for handprints across the room. So I can't put it. I prefer the tier 3 for that reason. Like, I can, let's say you're in Tanglewood, right, and you're in the living room area. You know, right. So when you enter the house, you go down the corridor, and in front of you is the living room area with the TV. I can stand behind the sofa and still check the windows from there. The range is really good. Whereas the tier 2, I do kind of have to be standing close to it. It does cover a large area, but once you know what you're doing, I don't think it's actually that good as people say it is. I don't ever use it over a tier 3 at the moment. So yeah, I'm gonna just say it's a solid B tier. It does what it says on the tin. And our final item in the game is the tier 2 incense, which is going straight in S tier. I love this incense. In my opinion, best incense in the game. Better than the tier 3, better than the tier 1. That is down to opinion. However, for the games I play, which are like Insanity, Nightmare, No Evidence, I always use this. There's a few reasons. So, I use this over the tier 1 because it's more predictable to tell where the ghost is when you incense it. So, when I incense the ghost with a tier 1, sometimes the ghost is really fast and it's just running around near me and I don't know where it's going. It's really unpredictable. With the tier 2, it stuns the ghost a bit, so it walks away slowly and I can predict where the ghost is going to be, and I know how to escape and get away and the best place to hide, and it gives me some time to do that. So I like that for that reason. And now the reason I like it more than the tier 3 is because I've been in situations before where I've ran to a hiding spot. It's my last incense. I've used it. I'm in a hiding spot. So the ghost is walking over to me. I incense the ghost and it's just in the sight of me when I'm in my hiding spot. And the ghost will just be stunned in that exact position. So as soon as that incense runs out, it will see me. Whereas the tier 2, when you use that, the ghost will tend to wander away from the spot that you just incensed it in. So you can stay in that hiding spot. Whereas with the tier 3, I've been in situations like in Edgefield Road where I'm hiding behind the dining room table where the ghost has ran over to me out of nowhere and I've been really surprised. It's right in front of me. I've incensed it with the tier 3 and then I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to go find another hiding spot. I need to run now, otherwise I'm going to die 100%. So I prefer the tier 2 for that reason as well. And a lot of people have an argument where with the tier 1 incense over the tier 2, oh yeah, but it doesn't change the ghost speed. But to be honest with you, that doesn't really matter to me because the tier 2 incense, I know how long it's getting incense for, which is also, by the way, important as well, because the tier 1 incense, when you incense it, you can't really do a Moroi test because you can't tell how long the incense has lasted for, whereas the tier 2 you can. Tier 2 is just like a perfect mix of the tier 1 and the tier 3 infused. Like, it stuns the ghost, but the ghost wanders away at a slow pace. You have time to go hide or change spots or whatever, and yeah, for that reason, I have to put it in S tier. I use it all the time. I love unlocking this tier 2 incense, and I always use it over the tier 3. The only time I wouldn't use this over the tier 3 is in an APOC challenge, APOC 3 or something, where you need to stun the ghost to try and get the photo. It's a little bit easier to get the photo, but you can still do it with a tier 2. So yeah, there we have it. Now, final reviews. Looking over this, I might rearrange something. I don't know if I can put the tripod on the same level as the UV and some of these other items. So I'm going to actually move the tripod down. It's all right. Tripods aren't like needed in games, you know? So I'm going to actually move that down to C tier. And then finally, I don't know if I can put the lighter. I think I'm going to put it in D tier. It's just like meh. It's so meh that it's like, I don't even feel like I can put it above, like I can't put it on the same level as the tier 2 EMF and tier 2 Parabolic. And honestly, thinking about this again, I might have to remove the Parabolic up because I don't know if I can put it at the same level as the tier 2 flashlight. We're going to move the Parabolic up one, and now I'm happier. Let me see. And okay, the only thing I would maybe change is move the tier 2 thermometer up. But because I don't use it in my main loadout, I'm going to keep it on A tier. But it is the best tier 2 gear that isn't these for sure. So yeah, I think I'm going to settle on this. I'm happy with rearranging it like that. These are pretty much all on par. Yeah, okay, we'll go with that. So that was my tier list video. Let me know your opinions in the comment section. I will leave a link to this tier list so you can do this yourself and share that with me. Do come join my Discord. We talk about everything Phasmophobia in there. We've got ghost guides in there, equipment guides, cursed object guides, all that kind of stuff. And I let you guys know when I'm live, etc. I go live almost every day, so be sure to check out the stream and see me use these items live. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.